To discuss the real issues affecting the Tasman nations, this is Trad Tasman Talk, jointly produced by the Unshackled.net and rightminds.nz. Now, here's Tim Wilms in Australia and Dieuwe Boer in New Zealand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trad Tasman Talk after 2.5 weeks off, which was not our intention. The reason is that Stephen Berry, he decided to switch his internet from Optus, which has been a disaster, and do a view in Christchurch last week, which I'm surprised after the week we've had here in Victoria, it's still called Christchurch.
Yeah, we've made that joke before because they tried to rename the for the Australians who don't know this, the rugby team of Christchurch are the Crusaders. So you can imagine how that goes. The Crusaders from Christchurch, well, the Canterbury team anyway. So I believe the team is still alive and named Crusaders and still has a Crusader, but there were some big attacks against that. So they'll be going first. The rugby team will be gone long before the city gets renamed. But there is a renaming in progress. It does have a local Maori name, which I'm not sure what it is. Somebody in the chat will know. But yeah,
I was thinking it's not a Muslim name for the city and team, maybe an LGBT alphabet groomer name.
That's currently not on the cards. But yeah, it's with the way that we rename things in New Zealand is that everything gets a name in Te Reo, but usually it's an okay name. You know, if you were to translate it, usually the way they name things, they would just describe them as what they are, kind of like a lot of places in England. Just very bland names.
We've already started with the small talk, so I'll do the formalities. It is Tuesday, the 11th of October, 2022. I'm obviously Tim Wilms, editor-in-chief of The Unshackled here in Melbourne, where it is 7 p.m.
And I am Dieuwe Boer, the editor of Right Minds NZ, and it is 9 p.m. here in Auckland. We also, for the first time ever, have a right-wing mayor. So I feel like that has to be part of the introduction now, the right-wing city of Auckland.
Yes, the elections of the second half of 2022, the results have been very based, from New Zealand to Sweden to Italy. Fingers crossed for Bolsonaro to be re-elected in Brazil at month's end. For the first half of 2022, the globalist cuck in France, Macron, was re-elected, and obviously we had the new Anthony Albanese government elected in May. Though much to, I wouldn't say we're reassured, but life here, like life for us, in terms of a policy from the federal government, I mean, not much has changed. Like, I don't think my life would be any different if Scott Morrison had been re-elected.
And I suspect something similar is going to happen in New Zealand next year, where it seems likely, based on the way things are going, that we're going to have Jacinda Ardern replaced with Christopher Luxon. And I suspect
Lex Luthor looks like.
Well, people will struggle to tell the difference.
Yeah, but one of the refreshing things that Albanese has done is that he has continued the dismantling of the COVID biosecurity state. So they agreed at National Cabinet, not last Friday, but the Friday before, that by this Friday, the 14th of October, they would abolish mandatory COVID isolation for everyone except in health and aged care. That's the only areas of society where there'll still be a pandemic. And as such, here in Victoria, Dan Andrews has decided not to renew the pandemic declaration, which means that all the abolition of isolation, COVID isolation, comes into effect early on, from 11:59 p.m. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, the 12th. And so the pandemic will officially end in Victoria. Coincidentally, just a month and a bit before the state election. And this also means that Dan's COVID quarantine camp at Mickleham will close. It cost $580 million to build. Just housed 2,168 people, because there's, any person can come into Australia vaxxed or unvaxxed, and now whether they've got COVID or not. So it'll now be ownership will now be with the federal government. So Police Minister Anthony Carbone said it has served its purpose. Its closure is another step in our recovery from the pandemic. He said the facility would be mothballed but remained as an insurance policy in the event of a future pandemic, or to provide accommodation in emergencies like natural disasters. I'm not sure if it'll be used this Thursday and Friday when flash flooding is forecast for Victoria and also New South Wales because of, thanks to third consecutive year of La Nina. So Dan, he said, there's no point in building more dams because it's got to rain for the dams to be of use. Well, we could have used with some new dams now, since the ones we already have are full. Lady of Charlotte.
We've had the same. Go on.
I was just Lady of Charlotte. The vaccine mandates will still apply to doctors, healthcare professionals, and aged care workers. So there's still those vaccine mandates, and you can get the bivalent. I think I'm pronouncing the right vaccines today, tailored to the Omicron original variant. That's not the one that one has been tested on humans. It's the new BA4 and 5 bivalent vaccines that's only been tested on mice. So there's two types.
And I believe New Zealand is still much ahead of you in that regard, that all of the mandates are gone now in New Zealand. I do believe that mandatory isolation for those who have COVID is still in place, or at least highly recommended, but all of the household isolation, all of that's gone. So the emergency legislation is still in effect. Probably still will be until next year. We'll see. It's highly likely Jacinda will get rid of it before the election, so that it won't be an election issue. But the funny COVID update from me is our supposed right-wing broadcaster, Sean Plunkett from The Platform, decided that he finally would catch COVID. So he tweeted out initially saying that to all those, so when was this? What day is it?
Oh, sorry,
Yesterday.
I haven't. Give me a moment. I haven't got the screenshots up yet. Here we go.
So at 10 a.m. yesterday, he tweeted out, to all those who have been in physical contact with me in the past week, I have just tested positive for COVID. He got shredded in the replies quite a bit in terms of, you forgot to say, I'm grateful for being vaccinated and so on. So then he went on in his next tweet to say, despite being vaccinated, I have got COVID. This doesn't mean the vaccine doesn't work. I am statistically less likely to get seriously ill or be hospitalized. So that was 2 hours later. And then in the third tweet in the series, we get on to It was at 6 p.m. today, or said nearly 7 p.m. today. So a couple of hours ago, he said, "Okay, so this now feels worse than a heavy head cold or a dose of the flu." So there you go.
Was he being serious or ironic?
He was being fully serious. So he's well known for being very.
He's the mainstream. He would have had Pfizer, so the mRNA one, because Jacinda.
He gets a lot of flack because he's supposed to be the independent media commentator, so everyone expects him to be a little bit more against the vaccine narrative, but he's fully on board with it. Has been the whole time. He does actually debate with people on his show about it, but I guess we just need to enjoy the series of tweets that he's putting out at the moment. I do hope he gets better. I really do hope he gets better, but I'm enjoying the entertainment he's providing on the issue.
I came across this photo of the NZ COVID zero dream team, or should I say mask dream team. So the guy on the left is Michael Baker. There is a parody Twitter account of his, which a lot of people mistake for it actually being him. It has
Michael Faker.
Yeah, Michael Faker. It has pronouns in the title, number of jabs and Ukrainian flag. One in the middle, the red hair, Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles.
Mm-hmm.
And who's the guy on the right?
I'm afraid I don't know.
Okay, but I assume he's a fellow traveller. But they're all sitting close together, not with a mask.
That's right. We've completely given up. They screamed and they cried, and I predicted that it would take a few weeks, and indeed it has taken a few weeks. And after screaming and crying for 2 weeks later, they've forgotten. Everyone's forgotten. Everyone's moved on.
Susie, she's not really taking the Auckland Morero election result well. So this is what she tweeted Saturday night. "Gutted for Auckland. We need a mayor who reflects our vibrant city and has transformational ideas that deal with climate change and the other challenges we face. Instead, we've got Wayne Brown." So who is this? I assume this supposed far right neo-fascist, mayor that you've got.
He's actually he's a liberal. He's one of these classical. I don't want to call him classical, but he's a boomer. He's a liberal boomer who's sort of fiscally responsible. He's wealthy. He's getting on in years. I believe he's 77 years old, so not particularly young. But he's sort of like you would call him Auckland's Donald Trump. In that he's anti-establishment, and he is. I didn't like him very much. I wrote him off completely. Didn't care about him. I thought nothing's going to change, even if he wins. Yet within several hours of him winning, the chairman of the Auckland Transport Board resigned. So they know he's serious because they are already quitting their jobs. So I'm excited for that. Let's just go through the slaughter of the lambs. Yeah, if you want to start at the top.
The swamp has already started draining itself in Auckland.
Yes, it has. So he said he was going to wipe out the entire Auckland Transport Board, and we already had one resignation within several hours of him winning. So that's a good start. So he won in a pretty big landslide. There's a couple of more right-wing councillors in Auckland, although the margin has slimmed. Once the preliminary results came out, the late ballots started being counted. Suddenly, we had a few extra left-wing councillors, but to a large degree, we have at least the most right-wing council Auckland has ever had. Safe to say, Rotorua, the new mayor, is a former national candidate. Whanganui, again a right-wing candidate. Lower Hutt was the still left-wing. Wellington's still left-wing as well. So it's the only left-wing councils in New Zealand now, like properly fully left-wing councils, are in the middle of the swamp. In Wellington, I believe Nelson, Christchurch, and Dunedin all have right-wing council, at least mayors and perhaps councils. So a massive wipeout for the left, and they were incredibly salty, incredibly upset on Saturday night. And in fact, we even got a few conspiracy candidates. They said at least 6 conspiracy theorists managed to win seats on local councils.
Obviously, it's the fault of misinformation. That's why they did well.
Yes, I see Origin here is describing Wellington as New Zealand's Portland. David Farrar, they're described as San Francisco, New Zealand's San Francisco. Basically, the people who live there think it's amazing, and everyone else just sees the large piles of excrement lining the street. Yeah, Wellington. Yeah.
And yes, this was a headline from.
Yes, that was exactly. Excuse me.
So yes, taking it well.
You go. Yeah, go back to bed. I'm busy.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And obviously, since one of Dieuwe's childs there has just invaded the show, I'm not going to read out this potty mouth tirade from Martin Bradbury. But for those who are watching, you can see it. So complain about the 35% turnout, and and so blaming complaining that the boomers got their way, and losers were apparently democracy, even though it was a democratic vote. It's
the standard. It's the standard left-wing response. Of course, the election. You can't challenge the election result if they win, but if you win, then then democracy hasn't been done correctly.
Exactly. What is it? Predictions in the end, Aucklanders hated any demand by authority to tell them what to do. Well, that's a good thing. I mean, at the end, there is some, I would say, some, some honest reflections, but yes, very salty.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Martin Bradbury, the writer of that article, is one of New Zealand's most famous left wingers. His nickname is Bomber. Call him Bomber Bradbury. I don't know why he's called Bomber. Maybe he was involved in anarchist movements or something, but certainly one of New Zealand's most well-known far left wingers.
Now we're going to go to the what we're terming the groomers report. I just did a groomers update on my Tim's News Explosion last night about the Mermaids UK scandal, this trans charity which had a pedophile apologist on its as one of its trustees, who's now resigned. There's been some in New Zealand, some unsavory things that both historical and current that have been going on.
Well, the first one was one that I'm not very familiar with because it happened 30 years ago, but Peter Ellis had his, who passed away, I believe 3 years ago now, had his child sex abuse convictions quashed by the Supreme Court. Ultimately, it was found that evidence was fabricated in his convictions, but it sounds like from their descriptions and his own descriptions is that he was sort of the original drag queen story hour of the local creche because he described himself as being sorry if I've misplaced my quote here. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay. I found out the bit I was going to read out. So I found this. So the allegations against Ellis, then 33, started in November 1991 against a backdrop of increased anxiety about child sex abuse in Western countries. It was a time when rumors about organized child pornography makers and theories about middle-class satanic ritual abuse of children were rife. Those things are true, but apparently he wasn't involved in any of those. It says Ellis was a flamboyant and sometimes outrageous figure at the creche who made no secret he was gay. So he went around, talking, being flamboyant and around these children. And apparently the allegation started following a comment by a 4-year-old son of a former creche parent that he didn't like, and I quote, Peter's black penis, and so on. And this led to dozens of allegations against him, but many of which turned out perhaps to be unfounded. So there's no evidence that he actually sexually abused children, but it seems like he was very much, what do you say, at least psychologically affected them in a very bad way.
There was that, satanic daycare hysteria fabrication that happened in Los Angeles in the 80s. So some of these moral panics can turn out to be just complete fantasies, but something that was very concrete was a teacher who issued this is described in the Daily Examiner, controversial sex ed handout, which outraged parents, and now is able to keep their job. So this is by I mispronounced his name. You pronounce it.
McCoskrie. So this is a school, again, so this is 30 years later now. The Tararoa area school had a teacher hand out, incredibly graphic sexual education material to children. We said perverted stuff. Won't put it up on the screen or won't read it out because I only read the first line of the document and then I wanted to throw up. So I won't put any of you through that. But you can go find the link online if you feel.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes
to see just how bad that is. But the disgusting thing here is that she was allowed to keep her job, and it was even noted that the school principal and several other staff reviewed the material and approved it. So this is the kind of grooming and perversion that's going on in schools, and this was handed out to pupils aged 11 to 13. So this was handed out to 11-year-olds. Incredibly graphic, perverted material. Some parents stating here that they believe that the damage to their children was irreversible, and absolutely the case. If you read even just a few words of it, you'll see what I mean. So that's the kind of stuff that's now considered to be completely normal and promoted in public schools in New Zealand.
We have had in Adelaide. I think I've lost the story here. Oh, here we go. Here. So this is the same as that news. It's a what you would call a TERF news website. So radical feminists who don't believe that trans women are women. This was the same website I quoted from last night about the Mermaids UK scandal. So trans TikToker facing multiple child sexual abuse charges. So a popular transgender TikToker is facing multiple charges related to the repeated sexual abuse from a child. Rachel Queen Burton, so that's the pre-transition and post-transition photos at the top there, has been accused of crimes including the production of child exploitation material, gross indecency. In total, Burton is facing 8 charges. So this is all of which appear to stem from a child victim who was repeatedly abused throughout 2019. While Burton is from Australia's Northern Territory, the crimes were committed in South Australia. And this is a clip from one of Burton's TikTok videos. You couldn't hear that, but you could see them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a mistake or intentional. Lovely.
But remember that according to Wikipedia, LGBT grooming is just a conspiracy theory.
Yes, well, as I mentioned earlier, the so-called satanic panic of the 90s and 80s perhaps was more true than people thought at the time. A lot of it ended up being, like you said, false.
Your wife said, "I didn't need to hear it to know he is
yes,
unhinged."
absolutely.
What is that? Is misgendering a crime yet in New Zealand? I wouldn't want.
No. The government is too distracted trying to do other things to worry about hate speech at the moment. So they're very much focused on losing local elections.
Police entrapping.
So instead of hunting down perverts, the police have decided that they're better off trying to pretend to be window washers. It's a long video there, but you can go and read it on the BFD, and you can watch that 6.5-minute video there. But basically, a citizen journalist captures the police pretending to be window washers, which is actually a crime, being a window washer. And you can see here.
He's the cop that gave me the ticket. That's the cop there. He's the cop that gave me the ticket.
You're a cop. He is the cop.
Yeah. This is bad, man.
Oh, he's pretending to be a window washer.
Yeah, he's pretending to be a window washer.
Oh, that's fucking rough, man.
Yeah. I almost want to get out, bro.
Oh, shall I? No.
What?
Keep filming it from here. He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they get out. Basically, they get out. They confront the guy who walks away, and then several other police come over and actually threaten to arrest them. So they threatened to arrest the guy for like disturbing the peace or whatever, one of those ones.
Oh yeah, that's how
it's like, I'm just standing in a public place, and it's like, no, you're disrupting, you're disrupting the public, and it's like, no, he's like, I'm standing here, I'm just standing in the middle of a field, you can't threaten to arrest me for standing in the middle of a field. And so that goes on for several minutes until a superior, one of their superior officers turns up and realizes how bad the look is and calms everybody down. Oh, that's it. Obstruction was the one that Orange. Yeah, that's right. They tried to arrest him for obstruction. Exposing their crimes.
To like go after actual criminals, the gangs. So this is an Ipsos poll where crime is 31% is of New Zealanders responded.
That's right. Yeah, it's cost of people worry about cost of living, housing, healthcare, crime, and the economy, and none of this. None of the climate stuff that they're pushing, none of the Three Waters reforms that they're pushing. So trying to basically confiscate the water assets from councils and nationalize them, and all of that is so deeply unpopular that that's why they're getting slaughtered in the local elections. And if you look at these key issues going into the next election, the Labour is getting very, very nervous. I would say that Jacinda would probably be sweating a little bit.
Yes, and she was sweating on a mo at a recent press conference.
Sweat mustache. You'll be right. You're probably out of shot over there. Okay, everyone's ready to go.
I still see there's a few masked people in the background.
Yes, they still do it for show. A few bits and pieces. It's very strange to see the context where they decide to wear masks and where they don't. It makes absolutely no sense. It never did, but it makes even less sense now.
I think one of the few remaining Australian politicians who still almost wears a mask is moaning Monique Ryan, Karen from Kooyong. She's the one who berated coalition MPs, put your mask on. So
but she wears that as shame. It's a mask of shame for her.
Yeah, so whenever she posts a photo of herself, like at a community event, now she's the only person masked, and so the replies are just just people just giggling at her,
just mocking her. Yes, and that's good to see that. I see Origin in the chat here is also saying that ACT is proposing a referendum on the treaty principles. Yes, so that's another thing that's getting hammered hard. But a lot of the racial division and segregation that Jacinda's government is trying to enforce on New Zealand is so unpopular. You're seeing even some of the squishy libertarians decide that hey, they could get a lot of votes from an issue like that, and they're more than willing, sort of like being called racist doesn't matter anymore, and especially what they've started doing now. Notice especially the ACT Party, they've got three of their top people are of Maori descent, like to a very small degree. So they all look like, most of them look completely white, but they'll keep playing the race card. So they'll be like, how dare you say these things to me because I'm brown, basically.
Because there's been
they're turning the tables very nicely.
Yeah, in throughout New Zealand's history, there's been so much race mixing or miscegenation, whatever you want to call it, between the European settlers and the Maori population. The New Zealand accent is basically, it's a combination of the British accent and the Maori accent. So there's so many who half, quarter, eighth, 1/16 Maori.
Yeah. I've seen a comment here, Origin asked about the treaty principles being axed. It's not so much that they're trying to axe the treaty principles. I believe they're going to redefine the treaty principles. That's basically, they wanted to put the treaty, the libertarian version of the treaty principles into legislation, so that you have to interpret the principles the treaty according to libertarian principles. So it's not a bad idea. Should have a look at the details of the proposal, I believe. I'm not super familiar with it, but that's what I got out of it. So if anything more comes of this, we can cover it in more detail on a future show.
The Albanese government, they are, they're still working through the process for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament. So we're not sure when the referendum is going to be, but Anthony Albanese has put forth what the question is going to be. So there's going to be a constitutionally enshrined voice to the Parliament, but it'll be up to the Parliament to decide how it's composed and what advisory role it has. Anthony Albanese has said that if a government dared ignore it, they wouldn't be very popular. And there has been a new ad put out by the Pro Voice campaign, which is backed by many corporates, of course, and it's called "History is Calling," and this is their message.
I got a story to tell you. It's a good one. It's about how these people, the first people, got a voice.
60,000 years they've been speaking.
Had 363 languages.
But no voice. No say on matters which affected them. It wasn't right.
So, me and your granddad.
Me and your mum.
The whole nation did something about it. People called their friends and families. People talked about it on the streets, talked about it at work, on the field. Everybody made a song and dance about it.
Everyone walked side by side.
And that's how we changed this country for the better. How we made history.
Is that story true?
It could be.
Authorised by the Uluru Dialogue Sydney.
Yeah, that's a complete lie, that video, because Aboriginal Australians, no matter how much of their DNA is Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, they get to vote in every election, stand for Parliament. They can write submissions to committees, table petitions. So, Colin, I don't know how much it is going to cost, but I suspect that they're going to be spending a lot. Now, the IPA, Institute of Public Affairs, they put out a video that race has no place in the Constitution. Facebook didn't allow them to promote it on social media because it wasn't properly authorized like that ad was. So there was a sensible explanation for their censorship, and I'm sure it won't happen again when it comes to the actual referendum campaign. Sort of same how PayPal, they just accidentally put out that they were going to steal their users' money for information.
$2,500 for wrong think. I quit PayPal years ago and haven't looked back because they've been doing this stuff for at least 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, I mean, they've deplatformed right wingers and stolen their money. When Blair Cottrell got his PayPal account frozen, it had $1,700 in it, and PayPal just kept it for itself. They didn't give it to him at all. So, yeah, they've already been basically fining people for wrongthink.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So horrible service.
Yeah.
And it's good to be on the upside. On the look at the bright side of this is in both New Zealand and Australia, a lot of ethno-nationalist sentiment swelling up. It's cool to be ethnocentrist now. So maybe we could have a it's no longer like our race doesn't matter anymore. Race is the most important thing. So. We just look on the bright side of it.
Now it's just broken now that Green Senator Lydia Thorpe, she's going to, she says she won't be campaigning no against the Indigenous voice to Parliament because, of course, for her, like that's, the voice is just not enough. Though she's had a bullying complaint against her over allegations that she reduced an Aboriginal elder to tears in a meeting at Parliament House, basically saying, she's accused of berating her, saying, "Don't you know who I am?" And the Greens were at it again in the Senate last week with Green Senator, their Deputy Leader, Maureen Faruqi, attempting to censure Pauline Hanson for tweeting in response to her a attack on the Queen after her passing, accusing her of overseeing a racist empire. Pauline Hanson tweeted, "Your attitude disgusts me. If you don't like it, piss off back to Pakistan." And in the Senate, Pauline doubled down.
As I have explained myself, I will not retract what I've told Senator Faruqi or any other Australian that's come here for a new way of life to disrespect what is Australian to me, and she can do and go what I've said. I make the offer also to take her to the airport.
So it was another great Senator, Jordan Steele-John, who called her a scumbag. And I just want to put out an offer to myself. For those COVID zeros in Australia who are praising China's continued biosecurity totalitarian lockdowns in response to every outbreak, I will offer to take you to the airport to catch a one-way flight to China. I'll even wear like one of those ridiculous masks that you're so fond of. So Yeah, I'm prepared to give you a ride to the airport for a one-way ticket to China to live in a COVID-0 paradise.
Speaking of China COVID-0 paradise, we had Jacinda Ardern go to the United Nations in, I believe, last week. I've lost track already. She gave a wonderful speech and audition for her new role when she loses the election next year, of what she's going to be doing at the UN.
Supreme Leader of the United Nations is who she wants to be, and certainly her message would have been well received by China and North Korea.
This week we launched an initiative alongside companies and non-profits to help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, a challenge that we must, as leaders, address. Sadly, I think it's easy to dismiss this problem as one in the margins. I can certainly understand the desire to leave it to someone else. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light-touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly. But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists? How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology?
And thank you to the Real Ruckman for another superbly edited mashup there. Well, basically, he just played what she said, but inserted it.
Absolutely word for word what she said.
Tal says,
"Yeah, it's just absolutely. It's insane to have the leader of your country refer to." Refer to freedom of speech and expression and the open internet as a weapon of war. It's a completely Stalin-esque. If I'm trying to think of the Stalin quote along the lines of, if we don't let our enemies have guns, why would we let them have words? Because words are far more dangerous. That's effectively what she said. Right? Free speech is more dangerous than bombs and guns, so therefore you can't have it. Which is I guess, the end line of the argument. She's just jumped ahead. She's kind of skipped a few steps and gone straight for the audition.
Well, probably the most sinister, or you wouldn't call it necessarily anti-freedom per se, but an attempt to get more government power and centralize the surveillance of citizens. The Albanese government, the new Home Affairs Minister, Claire O'Neill, the Finance Minister, I should say, Katie Gallagher, has responded to the Optus customer information hack, where 10,000 customers' personal information, including passport, Medicare, and driver's license numbers, were leaked online. It should be noted that the reason why Optus would retain such personally identifiable information is because the government mandates it. I mean, the government mandates that companies like Optus retain your metadata. It's all in the name of making sure that we can track down terrorists or pedophiles. That's the justification for it. Now, the the hacker demand a ransom of only $1.5 million. So clearly, it's not much in today's inflated dollars. They sound like Dr. Evil in 1967. But then after a couple of days, they said, actually, very sorry for publishing this information. We won't publish it anymore. They did arrest a teenager for attempting to issue scam text message to Optus customers, tricking them into giving money over. But the solution is that to the Optus breach is for the government to push forward with its trusted digital identity bill. So Finance Minister Katie Gallagher has called together all the digital ministers to kickstart the rollout of a national identity system amid calls for the government to build a new technology infrastructure that would reduce the risk of identity theft following the Optus data breach. Because, yeah, government databases or computers, they've never been hacked before, haven't they? And so this is
right here in New Zealand, they leave your, they've left basically the entire firearms registration database in a police station and let gang members walk off with it. That's the kind of total security we expect from the government.
This is the website. They've got a website all up prepared for this to become enacted. Your digital identity makes accessing government services online simpler, safer, and more secure. And they've got this informative video here.
Your digital identity is a simple, safe, and secure way of proving who you are. It's convenient. You can use it on the go at any time of day. It's secure, so you don't need to remember passwords for services you rarely use. And you can be confident your information is private and protected. It can save you time. You don't have to wait to access the services you need. Set it up once, then reuse it again and again, whenever you need to prove who you are.
Sounds like they hired the same ad company that the World Economic Forum uses for their Great Reset.
Yes, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Yes.
They make it sound like
one centralized government ID and be happy.
They make it sound like it would be easy to steal as well, like based on if somebody can steal your identity easily, they can just get access to everything. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen.
I hope that most Australians deleted their state services app when the QR check-in system was abolished. Like, why would you keep a government ID app on your phone?
That's all right. It was probably the test run. They'll be like, oh, hey, you still have your COVID app installed? We'll just update the COVID app with your digital ID. Problem solved.
Because in communist China, the way they just disable citizens being able to do anything is just turn their health pass to red.
Exactly. Yeah, but they have an incredibly easy way if you've read the stories of dissidents there who just with a flick of a switch turn off your ability to pay rent, your ability to take a train or use a plane or whatever. You just unpersoned. No access to your bank account, no access to anything. You've got to rely on someone, a friend letting you into their house and sleeping on their couch, and that's it. Yeah, that's how people who get unpersoned in China have to live.
There's a question over on entropy. Remember, we're getting to the end of the show, so it's
please send through any questions for the last 10 minutes of the show, and we'll wrap things up.
Super chats as well. So Absolute 3 has said, with the huge level of net migration away from Victoria, isn't it a benefit for Dan if everyone who hates lockdowns has left the state? Seems like we're heading for a landslide, according to the polls. That is an interpretation that, obviously the people that love Dan, and there was a Dan fangirl on the weekend had a birthday cake with Dan's face on it, for real. So yes, that if Dan's re-elected, the stampede, another stampede will happen. And I'm sure the people leaving California to migrate to Florida, not going there because, they love what's happening in California or want to bring it to Florida. Or at least I hope that's not the case.
That's inevitably what happens, though.
Now, the Albanese's government's mini budget is coming soon from Treasurer Jim Chalmers, and he's been trying to soften up the public for tough decisions. And he said, yes, there is likely to be a probable global recession. And there seems to be both a social media and mainstream media campaign for the Labor government to abandon what's termed the stage 3 tax cuts, which would mean there's the same rate of tax cents in the dollar between 45,000 and 200,000 of 30 cents. Above 200,000 would still pay 45 cents in the dollar. So it'd be a tax cut for the middle class, but rich people get more more money back than those on lower incomes, because they're already paying more of the tax. And these were legislated by the coalition government in 2018. The reason why they're called stage 3 is because they come in 2024. And the Labor in opposition said that they remain committed to these tax cuts, and the last thing they want to do is break a promise, which Julia Gillard, breaking her promise on the carbon tax, destroyed her prime ministership. It wasn't misogyny, as people like to claim, but the media campaign doesn't seem to be cutting through in the polls. Voters much prefer spending cuts over tax increases, which reneging on a tax cut, it's basically allowing it is with inflation, people's tax burdens are increasing because the value of their dollar is less. So only 5% of voters believe higher tax revenue is the best solution to relieve pressure on the federal budget, while 21% would prefer to see spending cuts on some services to pay for outlays on more urgent priorities. The survey shows 28% see economic growth as the better way to fund services, even if this requires significant reform. Another 27% want to see a combination of growth, tax, and spending measures. So there you go. And they also,
in New Zealand, we've had our OCR rate increase to 3.5%. We now have floating mortgages that are over 7%. The cost of just about everything is going up in New Zealand. And then just today, the government has announced a new carbon tax that effectively they will seek to wipe out up to 25% of farming, beef and sheep and beef farming industry, also a good portion of dairy industry, following
the Dutch model.
So what they announced, or what they passed in the Netherlands, was like 50% of farms going. So Jacinda, while auditioning for the United Nations decided she needed something to be able to back that up with. But 50% led to the protests in the Netherlands. So she thought, maybe if we say we're just going to reduce farming in New Zealand by about 20%, then there won't be such massive protests. So they've effectively announced that they'll be planting trees, pine trees over farmland, the New Zealand farmers will be the first in the world who have to pay massive taxes on, the greenhouse gas emissions, all of this fake climate change stuff, and even they admit it's fake because the global CO2 emissions would go up if New Zealand cut production, because we produce the lower, we produce beef, dairy, and wool with very low CO2 costs. If that's something you're worried about, but obviously not.
Let's not get that little fact get in the way. I mean, the point
they don't even care, right? It's all fake.
They don't want us to eat beef. They want us to
exactly. That's all it is. Anti-farming, anti-human agenda, and they'll openly admit it. And you just need to call them out on it.
We had it was promoted by mainstream media, of course, this Australian firm selling chocolate coated bugs. So like a literal Bertie Beetle, which is a famous chocolate, like actual chocolate product in Australia. So yeah, they're covering it in chocolate to try and entice, well, probably the youngsters as well.
Well, that's it, right? Try and raise a generation without.
Oh yes, Colin, the synthetic, the lab grown meat. Somebody also pointed out, if like being vegan and eating the bugs is so good, then why does things need to be made to look like meat?
Mm-hmm. Well, these products taste disgusting. I look at these sometimes, I think even if I were vegetarian, even if I were vegan, this stuff would make you want to throw up. It's absolutely disgusting. But it's just part of, again, the anti-farmer, anti-human agenda. That's all there is to it. It's nothing more.
We've got a super chat over on Entropy. We're actually making great time, even though we haven't had a show for 2.5 weeks. So some random bloke has sent through $3 Australian. Thank you. Did Dieuwe see the wonders of multiculturalism surface in New Zealand with chic supremacists face off against other Indian groups? Do you have a little Leicester brewing there?
I don't believe so. Not. Maybe I've missed the news. But we've got some good gang warfare that goes on. I should have sent you the picture of Jacinda Ardern at the festival she was at. I've got the link right at the bottom of this document here. Hold on. If you're able to bring that up, let me just highlight it for you.
Oh yeah, I see it here.
So bring that up if you can. So Jacinda made a surprise appearance as a model at the World of Wearable Art. You can see she's dressed up like the Grim Reaper to destroy New Zealand. And at the same time, while she was doing her Grim Reaper appearance, you had massive ram raids taking place across the city. So you had Michael Hill jewelry stores that were being ram raided by youths and emptied out in broad daylight as she was like walking down the aisle or whatever, what do they call it? Catwalk thing.
Yeah.
In her Grim Reaper outfit. Yeah. It's the most bizarre. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. Yeah.
Yes, that is both bizarre and disturbing. And there's another question from Absolute 3. Has Australia been ramping up natural gas exports given the supply crunch? Even though we've got an absolute, climate moron as our energy and climate change minister, Chris Bowen, we've actually got a level-headed resources minister in Madeleine King. She's from Western Australia, where, of course, they know just how valuable resources are. So she is approving more gas reserves and exploration. So it's sort of like we have like because these portfolios are split for some reason. We have like the good minister who says, like, don't worry, like, you'll be able to keep your lights on, not freeze or fry to death. But and then you have the bad minister who says, we're going to have these electric cars and utes, which obviously, if there's no power, you can't drive.
Which keeps happening in America. Obviously, California has their blackouts, or but not quite blackouts, but they have to tell people, don't charge your cars. And then you have the hurricanes on the other side of the country in Florida, where if you had an electric car, you wouldn't be able to drive away from the hurricane.
All right, that brings us to the end of the show. Now, on a serious weather note, please, if you're in New South Wales and Victoria, observe the current rainfall and river warnings on the Bureau of Meteorology website, bom.gov.au, because we are going to be pelted starting tomorrow. Thursday is probably going to be the worst day. So stay safe and don't drive over floodwaters. That is just moronic thing to do. Finish on a serious note.
Certainly very, very serious. We've had very nice weather here in Auckland recently. So did have some storms in the last little while, but nothing on the flood-worthy scale, thankfully.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in it's our old time that we originally broadcast 7-9 p.m. Tuesdays. I have to confirm with Stephen whether we'll do a regular show this Friday. Obviously, he has a regret that he changed from Optus. I don't know who he's with now, but hasn't been it's been an ordeal. We'll be focusing on the upcoming Victorian state election, and we'll also be doing some cultural reviews as well, because Todd Sampson's Mirror doco series is now premiered on 10 and Paramount Plus, which was controversial because he interviewed Tom Sewell of the National Socialist Network, and you're not supposed to interview Nazis to understand what they're about. And also
unless the Ukrainian.
Oh yes, of course. And also reviewing health ambassador Magda Szubanski's new series on the ABC, Magda's Health Check, which is not a comedy series. It's actually a serious health series. She's a very, very fat comedian in Australia who most infamously said that runners should have to wear masks outside because of COVID. And somebody rightly pointed out last time she ran was to the ice cream truck. But that's for Friday. All right. Good night, everybody.
Right.
And
good night. I will be off to bed. It's just after 10 p.m. here, and I'm starting to fall asleep at the wheel. All right.
Yeah. I'll also be back on Thursday for Wilms Front with Rocco. I'm not going to butcher his name, but he is going to be talking about how the Liberal Party rebuilds as a proper Conservative Party. Rocco Lenko, I think that's how you pronounced it. Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Trad Tasman Talk. To keep up with the latest real news and analysis from the Tasman nations, visit the Unshackled.net and rightminds.nz.